What
And
is
we are
up,
live.
guys? We are live. We are live. We are live. Welcome, 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 everybody, to another installment of the Jedi In Exile podcast with me. It's Tats and my ever dashing and handsome co-host,
Oh,
the Norfolk Lion. He's gonna blush. He's gonna blush.
good evening, Matthew. You sound like you're on that car map where your voice is very soft and sensitive, and gonna be helping put you to sleep tonight.
Well, that's exactly what we need. It'll get us some more views, eh? Um,
Calming.
So, welcome in, everybody. We are here yet again to chat about the Book of Boba Fett, and episode 3 debuted today. We have both seen it, we have both gathered some thoughts, and we're going to do what we always do, have a quick kind of chat through some of the stuff that we saw, some of the
Utter
things that we're
garbage.
excited for, and give it a little bit of a rating, etc. So, Brian, without further ado, kick us off.
Thank you for that, Matthew. So, um, episode 3, and I have to say straight away, absolutely fucking loved it. It's set up the rest of the series so much. So, for those who haven't watched our episode 2 and episode 1 reviews, you can get those on YouTube now. So go and watch those so that we don't have to talk you through episode 2. But episode 3 starts with basically we find out a little bit more about the kind of politics of Mos Espa and what Boba Fett is trying to run. So Mos Espa, a city on Tatooine, we know that, but we find out that it's divided. Bib Fortuna, who was Jabba's Nimwiwanawanga, like his translator, his right hand man who took over from Jabba. He, the city was separated into kind of three factions, and each faction had a leader. So it's like old school like crime families that then gave tribute to Bib Fortuna. So there's the working faction. And then there's two others, which off the top of my head, there's not much focus um on the two others. There's a lot of focus on the working class because one of the leader of the workers faction comes to Boba Fett and says basically, need your help. We're following in like the same lines of the Mandalorian, like, I'll give you something if you go and do this for me. So there's a load of kids that are like turned some parts of themselves into droids and they're stealing water, which is insane. So the guy's like, I will double my tribute to you. Obviously, he pays a tribute, whether it's once a month, a year, quarter, whatever. He's like, I will double that
We're not
if
we're
you
not
can
sure
get
in his
rid of
business plan, but
it.
at some point he gets some cash incoming.
So I'm sure he gets a dividend
Yeah.
of some sort that he then puts through the Tatooine HMRC. Um, so yeah, basically he's got to get rid of the kids who are causing trouble stealing water. So the first 10 minutes is like Boba going after these kids and talking to them. Well, it turns out they're like badasses who like basically spray graffiti on walls and shit. They're like proper 90s kids like who are hanging around.
So yeah, we
Um,
we kind of find out they've got these. They're like um, they've got like
Slight adjustments.
cybernetic enhancements, right? Like they've essentially modified themselves to make them kind of a little bit androidy,
Yeah.
in various ways. So one of them's got like an eye implant, and then this seems to be the leader, Drash, who has a kind of a replacement. You can just about see it for those that are watching the video. Um, that you can just about see it in the bottom there. That red kind of robot arm.
Yeah, it's really weird because it's that classic like she's given a load of stick to Boba Fett and he's like, you know what? I like that. I'm going to employ this girl. So he finds out basically that their argument is they're stealing the water because they're being charged a month's worth of work to get a week's worth of water. So water, obviously, Tatooine's doing is quite hard to come by. Um, so they've basically been overcharged. So Boba Fett is like, well, fuck the leader of the faction. You're going to get 500 credits instead of 1,300. You kids are coming to work for me.
Yeah, and
So straight away they've like they formed an alliance.
Yeah, we kind of see this thing that we talked about in episode 2 and episode 1. This kind of this softer side, this kind of more not just a ruthless bounty hunter, more of a calculated kind of person that's got a bit of a strategy, bit of a plan. And I can't remember if we talked about it on camera or off camera, but we definitely mentioned the fact that he's supposed to be this big daimyo, this big like crime boss who essentially has 3 employees at the moment. So this is him
Yeah,
actually building up his kind of like his crime family.
yeah, yeah. And so it then goes to which both the previous episodes have done. It then goes like back in time. So back before Boba comes into the Mandalorian, he goes in the back to tank and he's reliving some memories. And it goes back to where we kind of left with episode 2, that Boba said to the Tusken Raiders, "Listen, I'm gonna sort the pikes out for you. Like, no one's gonna be attacking you anymore. I'll get you paid for people going across your land." So he goes to see the leader of the Pikes. Well, the Pike is like, "Well, hold on, I already pay somebody else, the Riders. Um, I'm not paying 2 lots of people." So Boba Fett is like, "Okay, I'll sort the other guys out, and then you can pay the Tusken Raiders." Again, we don't know the Tusken Raiders' business plan. Um,
Maybe we should change
I
this
don't know why.
podcast to Galactic Economics because I feel like that's where we're headed.
Yeah, we really should. So again, they'll get the dividend. So we get some great shots of Boba riding the Bantha. Um,
Which is
so we get some.
slow, by the way. That
Yeah, I know.
animal
Like,
is
why would humans
slow.
use that? I know. It's like the space. It's like a space camel, basically. Um, so yeah, we do that. Boba then goes back to see the Tusken Raiders, probably to say, "Great news! I've sorted it out," and the whole camp has just been destroyed. Like basically, it must be a rehash of Anakin in Episode 2. So the whole village has been destroyed. He sees his mates. All their bodies are there. So he decides to burn them, and give them obviously their own kind of like tribute, if you like. And it's quite a moving moment,
Yeah,
even
like
though we've only seen them for like 2 episodes. It's good that John Favreau and Dave Filoni have obviously flipped what we think about the Tuscans, because the Tuscans have obviously been really wild. They've been like Neanderthal kind of cavemen. They can't talk. They communicate in grunts, and like they're shooting kids in pod races. Like and obviously in A New Hope we see them where they're battering Luke. So they've not got a good image yet. We've seen that transformed.
yeah,
And that comes later on in the episode as well with another animal that we've seen before that has a good side.
and I feel like we get this kind of um it kind of gives them the funeral, and again you see this kind of the elaboration and the kind of development of the character a little bit more. Feel like it would have been very easy to just kind of he comes back, he sees this and he's like outraged. He's
Yeah.
they kind of really took the time and slowed the pacing down to show that he took time to kind of give them. It's quite reminiscent of like a Viking burial. It's like the Qui-Gon burial at the end of the Phantom Menace.
He like
Um,
sets their weapons on fire with them. He like it's like the whole. It's like almost like Egyptian as well, where all their belongings go into the fire.
so I don't know if anybody like picked up on this, but it's kind of floating around the Twitter sphere in particular that the really small piece of wood that he burnt was the staff of the kid that he had bonded with.
Yeah, I assumed it was that because it was really small.
Yeah.
So I was like, "There's no way that's an adult staff."
So
But it
they
didn't seem. It didn't look like a formed staff though. It was just like that big a branch, like
yeah
what he got in the last
yeah
episode.
yeah. So I think they didn't show that that kid is dead, but I think that was them telling you without necessarily explicitly kind of going there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it then reverts back to the now here and now. It goes back to Bobber in the back to tank, and then the tank opens and fucking Black Chewie is there to attack Bobber. Um, so we see Black Chewie in the last episode. Um, he works for the twins, the two Huts, um, and he starts attacking Bobber, and Bobber's basically like just in his boxers. It's a real like UFC type fight. Um, So that's a really cool fight scene because Boba is like on the real back foot, and who comes to his aid but the kids that he's just employed.
And I think
So
this is really important, is that a lot of the stuff, other than episode 1 of this series, where we saw Boba kind of getting his ass handed to him a little bit when they get jumped in the street, this is one of the first times really that we see him vulnerable. Because he's obviously been, again, like, ambushed, pulled out of the back to tank, not really expecting it, no armor, no weapons, like nothing, and is really very much on the back foot against a species that are known for being just brutal, having ridiculous strength, and just kind of being insane. I'm just going to put it out here before the comments absolutely chew us to shreds that Brian is aware of the character's real name. He told me before we came on to the podcast that saying croissant, whatever, every time was too much of an effort, so he's just going to call him Black Chewy. So we are aware of his real name. We are just...
actually probably a bit cooler though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because every time I want to say his name, I want to say chrysanthemums, and that just
Yep.
makes like it's just not.
He
It's a flower.
like he's a BTEC Chewy, so it's fine. But yeah, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, they don't kill Black Chewy, so they obviously defeat him. It's like 7-on-1 because the Gamorrean guards come into it again and help. So basically, they're all then deciding what they're going to do about this. So Boba's like, I need to, fight back. I need to go and attack the Hutts or do something. Because he's like, they're not going to come and make peace or do anything. And then the next thing we know is the Hutts are turning up at the palace, um, spouting some crap. How they were like, oh, we're really sorry for this. We're leaving the world. We're going back to the Hutt world, Hutter, the Hutt planet. Which is really a strange term because the first 2 episodes set it up as though it was going to be this big struggle between Boba and these twin Hutts,
So
and
they
we
kind of...
find out that it's a little bit different.
Yeah, so I think they were set up as potentially, question mark, the villains, the big bads for the series, and when they leave, they kind of very much kind of say, oh, we don't want this either, because the mayor's basically like made a deal, and somebody else has laid claim to it all. We don't want anything to do with it.
And as an apology, they're like, "We're sorry for trying to kill you. Here is this beast." And we see again another reference to the old Star Wars films. We see a Rancor, so we know that obviously Boba now has got Jabba's palace. You can see the photo there of the Rancor, got this huge beast, and they've got the perfect place to put him, the Rancor pit. So, I've seen the Rancor pit referenced a few times already, and we're only on episode 3, where people have been sent down into it. That's how they trapped Black Chewie. They got him to stand on the thing and they pressed the lever. It was like classic cartoon material. So we think, oh, Rancor, an absolute beast. And then as the episode goes on, we actually find that the is Rancors are animals that are trained to be like they're gambled on fights,
Yeah,
basically.
to be aggressive and vicious.
Yeah, they're trained to basically kill each other. But we see a reference. So the guy, have we got a photo of him, of Danny Trejo?
We have indeed.
So he's basically, I suppose, comes along with the Rancor. The Hutts give Boba him as well. He's the trainer. So he explains that a Rancor imprints on the first person they see. So the Rancor has been basically blinded, like you see horses have with the covers. It's been blinded because the first person it sees it imprints upon. And we actually see that a Rancor has like a good side, which is pretty different, considering the Rancor looks like an absolute beast. Danny Trejo then says how they're used as wild animals on Dathomir, which again we'll move on to in a minute, that the witches of Dathomir ride them on their home world. So that again was a link to the past.
So I kind of just want to pick up on, for those that have seen the Bad Batch, there's a couple of episodes where we see Rancors in that, and it's kind of baby rancors, or a baby rancor, and we kind of get this. We get a little bit of context for this whole. Oh, they're not just mad, like aggressive beasts that attack everything. Like they're a little bit more complex than that. And this really built on that, and this is again, and we touched on it in previous episodes. Again, if you've not seen them, go watch them. That it seems very much like the consistency of Dave Filoni following through from Clone Wars through to new stuff that he's put on the back end. Is really evident that he's kind of continued messages, continued. Kind of like so
justifying the Clone Wars and Rebels and the cartoons as actually being adult material and worthwhile of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah,
because a lot of people look at the Clone Wars and laugh at it that it's like a kids show, but it's not. It's imperative to the story of Star Wars.
yeah, and I think that there's a lot of seeds that are sown back then that when you watch them, you don't necessarily know that that's what they're going to be, and then you watch some of the other content from various other areas, and you actually get a bit of payoff from those, and you kind of then understand it a little bit more. So that's quite nice. But I'll let you crack on, mate. Sorry, I interrupted again.
It's all right. That's what we're here for. So we get towards the end of the episode. This episode was actually quite a bit shorter. Again, much like episode 1, where it was about 35 minutes long if you take off the credits. So Boba then takes all his troop and is like, right, well, I need to go see the mayor. If he's promised this land, and we find out that he's promised the daimyo to the Pikes, which again is a huge wars, and to Solo. He goes to see the mayor. That weird assistant to the mayor, like, runs into the mayor's office, locks himself in there, and then we find they've gone. There's then a big like chase through Mos Espa, where they're chasing the mayor's assistant. They eventually get him, and then the episode kind of ends with a big ship of pikes. A big ship of pikes lands on Tatooine with about 1,000 pikes in, and one of Boba's, the guy with a mechanical eye, is keeping an eye on them. And that's where the episode ends. So the episode very much ends. They do the classic Hollywood thing where Finnick Shan is like, "Oh, they've come for a war," and Boba's like, "We'll be ready for them." And it's like, oh, and then it goes into the cool credit scene.
It goes to black, and you're waiting for a couple of seconds. Is there going to be any more? And then it's like, no, credits done.
Yeah, it was a cool episode because actually not really a lot happened, and it didn't feel like a lot did happen. But we've now moved progressively into, we're not at just the start of a series where we're setting the scene of everything. We are now fully into this.
I feel like there were two main action sequences. There was the fight with Evil Chewie, and there was the speeder bike chase, which I think we're probably not going to talk massively about because we're not going to get we're not going to get super controversial. I know that the speeder bikes have currently split opinion all over Twitter at the moment as to
Vespa bikes.
The Vespa bikes. So I honestly reckon that one of the props guys was like, "I've always wanted to own a Vespa. Why don't we design a speeder that is essentially a Vespa, and then I get the best of both worlds?"
It was powered off The Big Bang Theory. He is famous for driving a Vespa. If he was in Star Wars, that's what he would drive. Like, I thought they looked cool, but they looked Coruscant-y.
Yeah,
they looked
very new. Which there's every possibility they were brought in from off-world, but considering these guys are from the worker district, it's supposed to be poor, and there's always the chat about everything on Tatooine gets wrecked by the sun and the sand. Like, it just seemed a little bit out of place. I'm not massively criticizing.
They've obviously got them.
Yeah, I'm not massively criticizing. I'm saying I understand where people are coming from. For me, and we're kind of getting a little bit tight for time. We're going to start wrapping it up shortly, but a couple of kind of interesting things to pick up on that may not have been fully picked up on. I don't have the picture. However, there was a point where when Boba came in on the Bantha in the flashback scene, we get a little cutaway to the stormtrooper helmets on spikes, And behind that, we see a female walking along with two pit droids, and the camera kind of holds on this female in the distance walking along with two pit droids. So a lot of people might not have picked up. A lot of rumors going around that they think that is the lady. Her name escapes me, but the mechanic from the Mandalorian that had the pit droids. There's a lot of rumors.
I didn't notice that.
There's a lot of rumors that there's a little cameo there for people. But the main things that I guess would just be appropriate to talk about. So obviously, Danny Trejo's character talks about the fact, like you had already mentioned, that the Night Sisters rode Rancors on Dathomir. Boba says that he wants to ride it. Are we gonna get a little bit of Night Sister action at some point? Who knows? We were chatting just before we came on that realistically, Mother Townsend, who is pictured there with Ventress, obviously no longer there. Ventress, spoilers, no longer there from Dark Disciple and all of that kind of stuff. But we've got Merrin, who was around in Fallen Order. There is still some remnants of the Night Sisters. There's every possibility that there could still be some remnants of the Night Sisters kicking about.
Everything's coming together. Everything, like, it's all these Venn diagrams going on from Dave Filoni.
Exactly. And the other thing that I guess I want to talk about a little bit is with Black Chrysanthemum being in this and being brought to live action. So we went away, did some stuff, did some reading, did some research. So Black Chrysanthemum is a character who's appeared in a few comic runs, alongside Boba Fett and Darth Vader, but main appearances have been within the Darth Vader comic runs and also the Dr. Aphra series. So, Dr. Aphra is the character, for those that are watching the video, pictured on the left there. And she is like a mad bounty hunter, super clever. She does some work for Darth Vader. But we're wondering whether maybe this is leading us into maybe making an appearance, pulling it into live action a little bit, which I think would be pretty cool. For those that haven't read some of them, maybe go away and read some of them because they're pretty cool. The Darth Vader run that I've just finished, more than happy to provide a link to where you can get those comics. It's a run of four kind of omnibuses. I think each one's maybe got like 5 or 6 comics in it. Really, really good. Gives you some really good insight into it. But yeah, just some key things from me. I think that'd be really cool if that's where we're going to. I think realistically, we're getting the Pikes. The Pikes are being set up as the big bads. And that's where we're headed. But to get some of these little cameos that we've got so far with some of these people maybe being introduced, even if it's somebody that's dressed similar, that just kind of is about.
And I like it that they're not just going ahead and creating new characters, which is easy to do when you've got a Star Wars. It's a universe. Like, you could just... Disney could obviously just keep going and going and going and going with this. But I like it that it's characters that are already in the Star Wars universe. Because I feel like fans will buy in a bit more then, because you know that the fans like them because they're from the older stuff. Like,
and I feel like this is also where, and we've said it multiple times, in Dave Filoni we trust. He clearly knows his stuff. He knows his Star Wars lore. He's not just pulling from visual, like kind of movie and TV show stuff.
Make a cuddly toy to sell. He's not all about like merch. He's about being faithful to George Lucas.
I feel like he's making things for the fans. He himself is a fan, and therefore he is making things for the fans. I think this episode was pretty strong. I'll be honest. Every week we rate, so I'm happy to kick off the ratings this week with a solid 8.
Ooh, I'm gonna go for a 9.
Okay, bold.
Yeah, bold. I feel like I gave episode 2 a 9. I gave episode 1 an 8. And I feel like it was slightly better. I don't want to dampen down when I give a 10. So I feel like if I could, this would be like a 9.2 because I think it is better than episode 2.
Okay, let's not confuse
Oh,
it. We're already getting confusing with
it's
galactic
only,
economics. Let's not get into galactic fractions and
it's
decimals, all
only
right?
a, it's only a slight bit better than episode 2, but I know I really, really liked this episode. Um, yeah, it was just really, really cool. I'm excited to see where this series is going now because I thought that it was pretty black and white where it was going, and we've now had a dash of color added, so it's exciting.
I think it's been solid. I think the series has been solid. Really, really enjoyed it. Gonna continue to enjoy it. We will be here doing these videos every week as the episodes come out. So make sure that you keep it here. But with that, I think probably a good time and place to wrap up. If you're done and you've said your piece on this week's episode,
Yeah, I reckon I've said my piece, given
perfect.
everybody a lowdown of the episode, so you don't really have to go and watch it now.
Exactly. If you're not seeing it, don't bother. I'm joking. Go watch it. But as we do every week, thank you guys again for all the support you've been showing. One of our shorts that we posted from last week, Brian's incredible Tusken Raider impersonation, is getting close to 1,000 views on YouTube Shorts. So if you haven't seen it, go over to the YouTube channel, go watch it. We'd love to try and get it over that 1K mark. That would be incredible. As always, our socials, perfect timing, have been popping up underneath. So if you want to tweet at us or comment or let us know your thoughts on things or have a bit of a conversation with us, feel free. Please do get in touch with us. Obviously, all of the actual Jedi in Exile socials will be down below in the description in the YouTube video, and I believe we've got the link to them in the Twitch channel bio as well. But other than that, thank you very much. Thank you for all your support. Brian, I'll let you sign off.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Always a pleasure, never a chore. Good evening, Matthew, and I look forward to episode 4. Thanks, guys. May the force be with you.
Take it easy.
Peace out.